Shabbat Shalom. I think source sheets are coming around. And for those online, you can find the source sheet at pasyn.org/sermon teaching. So as I said when Maya was reading Torah so beautifully, you might have heard something that sounded familiar because the third paragraph of the Shema, the third blessing of the Shema, comes from this week's Torah portion. And so we're going to learn a little bit about it. We're going to have a little bit of a conversation on it. Does someone who already has the source sheet want to read the first source which we read from the Torah this morning, Numbers 15:37 to 41. Do I have a volunteer reader? Okay, I will read it out loud. And I won't lane it because Maya did it so beautifully. Adonai said to Moses, "Speak to the Israelite people and instruct them to make for themselves tzitzit." And here it says fringes. I use Safaria, but I'm going to call it tzitzit. On the corners of their garments throughout all the ages, let them attach a cord of blue to the tzitzit at each corner. That shall be your tzitzit. Look at it and recall all the commandments of Adonai and observe them, so that you do not follow your heart and your eyes in your lustful urge. Thus you shall be reminded to observe all my commandments and be holy to God. I am Adonai, your God, who brought you out of the land of Egypt. I, your God, Adonai. So I didn't translate tzitzit because we know that the tzitzit are what we now call the corners here. And so once upon a time back in the day, before people wore Tallit actually, they actually tied, so when I wear this Tallit, these fringes are very pretty, they're decorative, but they're not actually the tzitzit. The only tzitzit are the ones that are the four that are in the corners of our Tallit. But once upon a time, people tied, actually they had the tzitzit tied to their garments. They wore them on their garments. And then we adopted this habit of wearing a tallit in the morning. We wear the tallit only in the morning because the rabbis are very, very, very close readers. And it says, so speak to them, let them attach this. That shall be your fringe, and look at it and recall all the commandments of Adonai. And the rabbis are like, well, you know what? At night it's dark, you can't see so well. It says, look at it. It must mean that we should be wearing it in the morning. So you'll see we only wear a tallit in the morning, except for Kol Nidre. That's the only exception during the year that we wear a tallit. So that's the reason we wear a tallit in the morning and not the rest of the day. Some people you will see wear what we call a tallit katan. Some of the more traditional people, they wear their fringes. You'll see them under their garments. Sometimes they have them hanging out and sometimes they tuck them in. So some people do wear the tzitzit all day long, but those of us who adopted the tallit, which is just basically a conveyor for the tzitzit, will wear it only in the morning. So I said that, the tzitzit, that we call them fringes, but in the Torah, it wasn't clear necessarily what they were. So sometimes interpretation is how we decide what the translation is. So the next text is by the commentator Rashi, the 11th century commentator Rashi. And so he says in text number 2, they're called tzitzit. So what the rabbis do, if there's a word in the Torah and they don't exactly know how to translate it, they look for somewhere else in the Bible that same word appears. And they go and they say, oh, look, in the book of Ezekiel, one of the prophets, we see this same word, tzitzit. And it says that he caught me. So Ezekiel is talking about his vision of God, and he says he caught me by the curls of his hair. And so the word in Ezekiel is also tzitzit. So tzitzit, the rabbis say, that must mean something like hanging down. There's something like that. So that's how one of the ways that they translate tzitzit. And then Rashi says, but there's also another possible explanation. It's called tzitzit because of the commandment to look at it, because in another book of our Bible, Song of Songs, there's another word that sounds very similar, mitzitz, and it means to look, looking through the lattice. And the Torah in our portion says we have this tzitzit and we're supposed to look at it. So they draw an analogy between those things. So the commentators, they take these words and they look at different places where they can draw analogies and they try to bring it together. Everyone with me so far? Great. And then Rashi goes on, and he says, on the next source, he says that the tzitzit, this is great, I love this, remind us of the commandments. So it says, so again, back to it, we shall look at it and follow the commandments. We have to be reminded of the commandments. And the tzitzit will remind us of the commandments because the numerical value of the letters of the word tzitzit. So there's this thing called gematria. So it's like, if we did it in English, it would be like A would be 1, B would be 2, and the rabbis add up the letters of all of the words. And so they say that the word tzitzit adds up to 600, and there are 8 threads and 5 knots. So lo and behold, tzitzit equals 813, and guess how many commandments there are in the Torah? 830, sorry, 613, I said 6. So 8, we have enough already. So there's 613, it adds up to 613. So that's why we also, as another reason, so we have tzitzit, so they're drawing all of these threads, pun intended, to put the tzitzit together. And some have a custom, the next one is the Shulchan Aruch, in the 15th century, it was the sort of the set table, it's where a lot of our actual halacha, our Jewish law comes from. And it says some have the custom to look at the tzitzit when they say look at it, so it says you shall look at it, and to place it on their eyes. You see sometimes people do that. It's a beautiful custom and a way of showing love. And some also have the custom of kissing the tzitzit. So if you ever wondered, you see sometimes when people are saying the Shema, they kiss the tzitzit. Well, this is where it comes from. It's a way of showing love for the commandment. Okay, so what's the purpose of the tzitzit? Now I'm going to go back. So I've given some explanation of what it is. But so when we go back to the original source, what is the reason that God tells us that we should? So we know what it is. It's a fringe. It's on the corners of our garments. But what is the reason that we're supposed to wear tzitzit? Someone, anyone. To remind us of the commandments, right. So, and how does it remind us of the commandments? Because we look at it, right. So sometimes we need actual visual reminders to do things, right? So, because it's easy to forget, right? We're human. And even when we remember, then we forget. Or I'll use I. I remember things and then I forget things. And so it's like tying a string around your finger. Remember, I'm pretty old. So that was something, I don't know if that happens anymore. But people used to talk about tying a string around your finger. So it's something like that. So sometimes when you need to remember something, it's the tzitzit are, so we're supposed to look at them and remember how to do the commandments. And why? So that this is anxiety. Look at it and recall the commandments and observe them. So that, this is like the super interesting phrase that often gets sort of brushed over, so that you do not follow your heart and your eyes in your lustful urge, right? Pretty hot stuff, huh? So that we have to remember the commandments, so that that's what we're not supposed to do, because it's easy to do. So back to our commentator Rashi. The fifth source, so it says lo taturu, so that's the verb he's talking about. It says the verb has the same meaning as in Numbers, the same Torah portion that we read today. Remember I talked about the spies earlier? The word that they were supposed to go spy on the land is matur. It's like, it's the same word. He says lo taturu. It's this in the same Torah portion. This same word means to go and search, look at, spy the land. So this same word means the spies go spy the land, and it's the same word that like our eyes can search. You shall not search after. And so he says the heart and the eyes are the spies of the body. So you see where he's playing with the words here? So in the Torah portion, we had spies going out to spy the land. They look. And so Rashi's saying here we're told to look at the tzitzit. So but the eyes are the spies of the body. This is what he's saying now. They act as agents for sinning. This is the risk, right? We have to look at this so we don't sin. The eyes see, the heart covets, and the body commits sin. Okay, so this is the anxiety. This is why we have to look at this, so that we remember not to sin. So yes?
Two things. Does it have any further relation to observing with the fringe of blue?
Right. So thank you for the question. So there's techelet. So we were commanded to have fringes, including this color techelet. So which you'll notice that we don't. Well, some actually Tallitot actually do have a blue fringe. Now many don't. The reason is that at one point that was part of the commandment. The actual color techelet has been there's debate about what it is and has been forgotten. So we stopped observing the requirement to put Tallit, the blue, in the tzitzit, because the rabbis were like, we're not exactly sure what color that is, and we don't want to get it wrong, so we'll just sort of not do it, which is why we don't have it in the tzitzit anymore. Yeah.
Very curious is forgetting that we don't know. That's true. But why the commandment for blue was in there, and by the way, people do with the Orthodox, they wear tzitzit.
All day long, right? Which is what I said. So why the commandment for blue? I actually don't know why there was supposed to be a thread of blue. Sometimes in our Torah, in our Bible, it's just because God said so. We have different kinds of commandments. Some have explanations, and not all of them do. That's not always a popular answer, but it's one of the things that's sort of true. And the Orthodox, they do. So the Orthodox will wear their tzitzit out all the time, so that they will not forget. This is like the reminder. So I'm going to tell a story. The next source is a story from the Talmud that I'm going to read. And it might be a little shocking, and it might be a little surprising to you that this story is in the Talmud, but I think it's actually really instructive. And it's one of my favorite stories in the Talmud. Well, I have a lot of favorite stories in the Talmud. So the Talmud, a lot of people think, has a lot of dry Jewish law, but actually about 75% of the Talmud is sort of legal. I'll talk like sort of legal discussions, but about 25% of the Talmud is stories, because we learn from stories as much as we learn from laws, right? And stories are really a wonderful way for us to understand what we're supposed to do. So there was an incident involving a certain man who was diligent about the mitzvah of tzitzit. This man heard that there was a prostitute in one of the cities who took 400 coins as her payment. He sent 400 coins and fixed a time to meet with her. When the time came, he sat at the entrance to her house. So there's this famous prostitute. He's saved up all of his money to pay for it. The maidservant, Elliot's really enjoying this story. The maidservant of the prostitute entered and said to her, "The man you sent is here and he's sitting at the entrance." She says, "Let him enter." He enters. She arranged 7 beds for him. Like, just appreciate the nature of the story. 7 beds for him, 6 of silver and 1 of gold. Between each and every one of them was a ladder of silver, and the top of the bed was one of made gold. So she sat undressed on the top, and he went up, and he sat facing her, and just in that moment, guess what happened? His tzitzit hit him in the face. See, I told you, it's a great story from the Talmud. And they slapped him in the face. He dropped down on the ground. She also dropped down on the ground, and she said to him, "I will not allow you to go until you tell me what defect you saw in me." So he's like waited all this time, and then she's like, what's wrong with me? What defect do you see in me? And he says to her, "I've never seen a woman as beautiful as you, but there's one mitzvah that God commanded us, and it's the tzitzit, and it says, 'I'm your God, and I'll punish you.' So now my tzitzit appeared to me as a witness." And so this is the moral of the story. So this is why we wear the tzitzit, because just in that moment when you might be committing the sin, when your eyes are following you, your eyes are leading you to lust, this is like the proof in the pudding that it actually works, right? So this is why we wear the tzitzit. But the story, I think, gets even better, because she says to me, she says, "I can't, my religion won't let it." And she says, "Well, I won't allow you to go until you tell me what's your name and what's the name of your city and the name of your teacher and the study hall in which you study Torah." She wants to know how he came to be this way. So he told her the information. And what happens? She divides her property. She gives a third to the government, a third to the poor, and a third she takes. And so she goes to the study hall of Rabbi Chia, and she says, basically, "Convert me." So it's a great story about she meets this man, and she's so inspired by his religious devotion and his following of the mitzvot that she decides she wants to become Jewish as well. I think it's a wonderful story that illustrates the anxiety of the rabbis, but also it's sort of a beautiful way to show how it can come to be. Yeah, Martha.
So this is a Jewish man who studies regularly, and didn't he know he studied the right thing?
Yeah, so that's what Martha just said, and that's right. She goes, so this is a religious Jewish man who studies all the time, and didn't he know the right thing to do? And yes, but this is the point of the tzitzit. The point of the tzitzit is we can study and we can know the right thing to do, and we can still go astray. Like we do, we're human. It just happens all the time. We go astray, which is one of the reasons we have Yom Kippur, but we don't have to wait till Yom Kippur to repent. And so this is the lesson of the Tzitzit, which is the fact that, like, yes, sometimes our eyes can lead us astray, but we're always supposed to have tangible reminders of how to do the right thing. I just want to get to, so that Rabbeinu Bachya, a beautiful, beautiful commentator, says that the eyes are the heart. So he's sort of riffing on this, and he says the eyes are the heart and the procurers of sin. But he says, let's use our eyes to contemplate the works of the Creator, and to study and reflect on them, and to use it for the power and the bounty of the Creator. So, our eyes can lead us to sin, but let's use this to remind us not just not to sin, but to look for the beauty, right? It's not just the don't do, but actually use this to inspire us to do beautiful things. And the last text that I want to close with is a beautiful reading by Rabbi Shai Held of Hadar. And he says, a close reading of Exodus suggests a deep connection between the tzitzit and the high priest vestments. So Moses is instructed to make, earlier in Exodus, we read about the garments that the high priest wears, and they're very, very elaborate garments. And so we're told that he's told that he's supposed to make a frontlet of gold. He wears a plate, the high priest wears a plate, and the plate is called a tzitz. Okay, you can hear it, even if you don't know Hebrew, tzitz, right? Which sounds like tzitzit. And in Hebrew, there's if you put like an eat at the end, it means like little. It often means little. So that the Hebrew word tzitzit can be translated as little tzitz. So the high priest is wearing this plate that's a tzitz, but tzitzit sounds like a little tzitz. The plate, Moses is told, is to have a cord of blue, as we heard, like we're supposed to have here. Similarly, the tzitzit, we're supposed to wear a piece of blue. Most striking, perhaps, are the words that Moses is instructed to engrave upon the high priest's plate. It's on the plate of the high priest, it says it should be kadosh laHashem. It should be holy to God. The words call to mind the meaning of the tzitzit as explained in Parshat Shlach, which we just read. Thus you should be reminded to observe all my commandments. So this is the beautiful part, I think, which is that we're not just supposed to not sin. We're not supposed to just observe the commandments. We're not supposed to just look for beauty, but we have that. It's an even higher standard. We're supposed to be reminded to observe the commandments because it helps us be holy. Kedoshim leLochechem. So a stunning claim emerges from this that the tzitzit that the Jews don every day express a remarkable challenge and aspiration. We are summoned to be holy, right? We're not priests. Without being priests, we can partake of the holiness of the priest and even of the high priest. The tzitzit are a physical sign of the Torah's most fundamental call to the Jewish people. You shall be to me a kingdom of priests and a holy nation. So when we don our tzitzit, it's a call to holiness, and it's a reminder that each and every one of us, every single day, can be holy, and that is our obligation. So it's this Torah portion, but we read it every single day in the Shema. We're supposed to read the Shema at least twice a day. So twice a day we're reminded not only to sin, but more importantly, to be holy, and to be holy for God.
Thank you for joining the Park Avenue Synagogue family. I hope you enjoyed the sermon. Please consider supporting our online community by scanning the QR code or by going to supportpas.org or by making a donation. Shalom, and see you in Shul.